Welcome to part 1 of my new painting series where I'm challenging myself to add depth. So I was looking at my recent oil paintings and acrylic ones, and I noticed that they're all kind of flat. So it kind of just looks like a poster or a drawing that has no 3D elements. And I noticed that there's no place where people look. So I was talking to someone and they were mentioning that a lot of the good paintings out there and the kind of more interesting ones to look at, you have a kind of direct place where you want people to look first. So I really want to try making more kind of 3D styles and keep my kind of abstract doodle style, but just make it a little more realistic in terms of depth and making that 3D dimension. So the goal of this one is to create that perspective and depth by shading and using the colors. So I went back and forth on if I wanted to do acrylic or oil for this one, but I thought that oil would be good because it doesn't dry quickly, so I can continue that shading and kind of use it like a sketch. So I did some sketching to kind of practice the 3D aspects and just how to give it that perspective. Now I'm still very much so a beginner, and I don't know, like I've mentioned in the past, really anything about the fundamentals. I just kind of play with it and have fun with painting. And I was doing the sketching and it was a lot of fun to try to do some more kind of realistic things that I can put in my paintings. So we'll see how it goes. It's the first one, so I'm expecting a lot of mistakes and little ways that I can just kind of change it or make it more abstract and do that. But I want to have a few that look really good in 3D and give the painting that kind of depth that I want. This is also one of the first videos that I've done in a while where I'm talking and kind of explaining the process. So I enjoy doing them, and if you saw my last videos in the last few months, I was doing a 4-foot by 5-foot oil painting. And I wanted to make that one extremely detailed. I think it had around 16 parts showing the whole process, and I just thought that I couldn't voice over all of it while doing that much painting in the day. So some of them I have without voiceovers, some of them I have with it. I'd love to hear which ones you prefer. But I thought this one would be a good painting to do the voiceover with, just to kind of explain my process and my thinking behind it. I have a lot of fun doing these. I don't know why, whenever I start a painting, especially if it's a large canvas or I'm trying something new with it, it's always a little nerve-wracking doing that first one, so I like getting it over with. And especially with oil painting, you can do so much where if something isn't looking the way you want it to, even a few days later, you can change it if the paint is still kind of not fully dried. I used a kind of a painting thinner that makes a glossy shine and makes it dry faster for the other oil painting. But for this one, I think I'm just keeping it the regular paint just to make sure that I do have time to go back and kind of fix the shading part of it. In this top part, I wanted to do a cool kind of abstract city, and I really wanted to practice depth with this one, so I'm going to have 3 different layers of buildings, and when I color it in and with the lines, I'm going to make sure that it's obvious which layer is in front of the other. So between that and the shading that I'll do after, I'm hoping it gives it that depth that I want. And I'm still gonna have some other stuff that doesn't have that 3D aspect, but for all the doodles, I'm gonna try my best to make sure that it's there at least a little bit. So I'm doing a little tree, then here I'm just coloring in this balloon and really trying to get that 3D style with the way I do the shading. And before I didn't want to, if I had a bright color, have the outline mix into it, but now that's actually exactly what I want. So I'm happy that I did a lot of other oil paintings in the last few months because I know how the paint works and I know how I can use it to my advantage for what I'm trying to do now. I wanted to give this kind of abstract road a three-dimensional feel as well. So I'm doing that with the colors, and I'll probably go in and do lining after to give it that kind of more obvious lines. And I'm trying to do that with every shape. I think where I might struggle in this one is not having a consistent shadow or line. I want it to be all consistent. And I don't know if I should do that the same direction through the whole painting or if I switch it. I guess it depends on what perspective I want the person who's looking at the painting to have. So we'll see. It'll be a long painting and a lot of opportunity to change things and see what works and see what doesn't. I thought it would be kind of cool to have a plane coming into the painting, and I thought it would kind of be a good little doodle to have the space there. Sometimes on the edges of the paintings I find I get a little bit lazy with it, and I think no one's going to look at the edges as much as the center, and I don't do more of those doodles, so I thought it'd be kind of cool to add. And now I'm adding detail into this little city. I want to keep this kind of like a sketch. So I'm using a tiny amount of paint and shading it in so I can shade in the first layer a lot darker than the second layer, then I want to barely do any shading on the third. I just kind of want to give it that dimensional kind of look, and it's good practice. And since I've been doing a lot of the sketching to practice, it was kind of nice because it felt a lot more like that. So yeah, the whole purpose of this painting is just to kind of practice this style and how to shade with oil paint and kind of how to work with the colors. So I know it won't be perfect. I mean, none of my paintings are, and I'm still learning, but it's kind of a fun opportunity to see how it looks. And I really enjoy making these videos because it's kind of cool to look back and even a few months later see what things that I've improved on. So it's kind of satisfying to look back and see the progress that I'm making, especially when I'm trying different strategies like this. I wanted to do something that kind of creates a section in the bottom of the painting. So I'm doing this little triangle under the upside down road, and I'm doing some little circles that I'm gonna make like they're rolling down the hill. And I might make the triangle into like a cool kind of abstract piece of pizza, I'm not too sure. And same thing here, I'm doing a little puzzle piece. I had the idea of maybe doing it like a globe and kind of seeing the kind of like earth having green and blue. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how some of these come together. This part of the painting I'm always super unsure, and I don't know if it's going to be detailed enough, and it always takes almost like the halfway point of each painting before I like the direction it's going in. So I'm kind of just coloring in these shapes as I go. Sometimes I don't, I just wait and do a lot of the outlines first. But I want to get as much practice as I can doing the little dimensional feel and basically just mixing the black outline with the color that I'm shading it in. And yeah, it's kind of interesting because for the longest time I waited for it to dry before I did it so it was nice and clean lines. But now being able to use that to my advantage is kind of fun. So it'll be a lot of learning in this one, but so far I'm enjoying the process. So I'm gonna end part 1 here, and yeah, thank you for watching. I'd love to hear the feedback on if you like hearing me talk about the process or if you prefer the ones without the voice. Either way, I'll be doing time-lapse ones for this painting too. I'll probably do it every few parts, I'll do a time-lapse. So yeah, thank you for watching this one, and I'm excited to see how this painting will turn out.